the fact that we spend so little money on food is kind of shocking to me. And again, I'm not saying you should buy my food, buy raw milk and grass-fed beef, but the fact that we expect to be well nourished for such a vanishingly small amount of money is kind of insane.
Yeah.
I mean, I frequently drive past people, houses that are, normal looking neighborhoods. I drive past driveways where people have hundreds of thousands of dollars of cars in their driveway.
Yeah.
Right. And this is probably, this may be a person who would complain that food is too expensive. It's not about the money. It's about the priorities. There are already people whom that's not the case. I totally understand that.
Yeah. Well, we're
But
conditioned that way.
the
We
majority
as a
of
society.
Americans-
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not how they approach things. They just would rather have a BMW 3 Series or a $70,000 truck or whatever than eat proper food to feed their family.
What is the healthiest chip potentially in the world that could be a great snack when you're barbecuing out with friends, enjoying holidays, and not injure your gut? If you're dealing with IBS, IBD, small intestine bacteria overgrowth, small intestine fungal overgrowth, and you're looking for potentially the world's healthiest snack chip, this might be the training for you. Today I've got Steven Rofrano. I think I butchered your last name. Steven, apologize on that. Rofrano. And we are going to be talking about Masa tortilla chips. Now, these chips only have 3 ingredients. We're going to teach you something special about masa today and what that means and how to get a cleaner type of corn chip. I know a lot of us out there might feel that corn isn't as clean of a product, or you have a reaction to it. There is no perfect ingredient for all of us, but if you feel corn could be a good fit in your life and your health, and you've started to recover your gut, or you're ready for a snack, this is for you. Steven, thanks so much for coming and sharing your passion, your product, and helping them make the world a little bit of a healthier place.
Thanks, Dane. Happy to be here.
Yeah. So first, how did you get into making a tortilla chip? I mean, we've got companies like Late July. We've got all the traditional corn chips and the crackers and the almond crackers. I mean, it's such a massive field, but you've been extremely successful with this specific chip getting into places like Mother's Market and getting into places like Fermentation Farm in Southern California, where I go to both those places.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
And I'm like, man, this is different. This is unique.
Firm Farm was our first store ever of any sort. Very cool.
Oh,
we didn't even think
awesome.
about wholesale. We were a D2C first company, and then they reached out and asked, "Hey, can we sell these?" And like 2 weeks later, after we launched, I'm like, "Yeah, why not? That sounds awesome." So Firm Farm is great. I've been there. Got a great grilled cheese sandwich, and funny
In Orange County?
Yeah.
It's
It's
beautiful.
Mesa, right?
Orange
Yeah.
County, California, guys, right off Victoria Street, Firm Farm. Shout out to Firm Farm. We love them. Fermentation Farm. They've got San Juan Capistrano and off Victoria Street in Costa Mesa.
Yeah, they do it right. I didn't know they had 2 locations. I've been to the Costa Mesa one, but yeah, I suppose it starts with my personal health issues. So, and I know you talk a bit about IBS and other gut problems. So if you want, I'm happy to go there because I have definitely some experience with these sort of things in my own life.
Yeah, I mean, seed oils. I mean, one thing right now, guys, the Masa chip is seed oil free. 3 ingredients here. But if I look on the back of other chips, we got avocado oil. I think that's something interesting. People have this idea that this avocado oil in the chip is healthy. I think it's healthier, but is it truly healthy? That's a question.
It's a great question.
And all the sweeteners and chili pepper, this and that, and
Yeah.
but yeah. So how did you? So you had health issues.
Yeah.
Why tortilla chips? First off.
So why tortilla chips is simply that was, well, actually, I guess there's a few things. As I started cleaning up my diet over the course of my 20s, I became very obsessed. I during college, for example, I was brewing my own kombucha because I didn't think the ones that you could buy at the store, of which there were many options, were good enough. I would bake my own sourdough bread. I got very good at sourdough bread baking. Did all my own ferments, sauerkraut, pickles, I fermented tomatoes, all sorts of crazy things in my college apartment. I got really into it, but the last thing that I couldn't really shake was tortilla chips. And the reason for this is because they are a relatively, I mean, even before Masa Chips, they're a relatively clean, good tasting, convenient, shelf stable, inexpensive carbohydrate that you can incorporate into any meal. So for example, when I was in college, I would go to this Polish deli and I would get kielbasa, go and get my imported European cheese, And when I was busy studying for some exam or doing homework, I wouldn't have time to cook. And so a lot of the times I would eat something like kielbasa cheese and chips, right? It covers all the basics. You got protein, fat, carbohydrates. It's crunchy, delicious, a very, very helpful snack. That was, and I suppose the last piece of my whole puzzle of learning about all this health stuff was seed oils, which I learned about personally in the beginning of 2021, I want to say, something around there, beginning of 2021. And I realized the only seed oils I was really even eating at that time were in the form of tortilla chips. I would buy organic corn tortilla chips and do the same thing. I was a bachelor at the time, again, working and trying to eat convenient things, and ground beef and tortilla chips and store-bought like guacamole was a big part of my diet, as an example. And so at some point I learned enough about seed oils. I'm like, there's no excuse for this. I have to get rid of these things. But again, it made my life very difficult. And so there was a bit of time where I was searching high and low for something that could replace what in my diet I'd used tortilla chips for. And there was nothing really ever good that could do so. There was one brand, there they are. There was one brand, I think they're still around. They're called Jackson's Honest. They back then fried in coconut oil, and they had, I believe, sweet potato chips, which are fine. And I think ingredients are very good. But a sweet potato chip is just not the same. You know, am I going to eat a sweet potato chip with cheese and guacamole? No. Like that, so that is such a satisfying culinary, like, or gustatory.
Right. All of us want a little something. We can't have bread. Nowadays, you look at the diets. We can't have bread. It's got gluten in it, and seed oils, and crackers, and almond crackers aren't even that good. And there's all this processed stuff. And it's so hard. And it's so hard to make a chip with so little ingredients. Right. And then I was in a similar position where I was like, okay, I'm going to get these other tortilla chips made in avocado oil. I'm like, you know what? I would rather it be a real fat, not an oil.
Yeah, avocado oil is such a scam, but
yeah, exactly. I completely agree. Avocado, you have to be very careful. The hexane, the cutting of the avocado is even pure avocado oil. The smoke point isn't as good as I think people think. You really want to cook in fats if you can. I'm going to read you the ingredients of these Masa Chips, guys. So as we're getting into this, MASA, traditional tortilla chip, organic corn, 100% grass-fed beef tallow, and sea salt. That's the ingredient. Simple. What does Forrest Gump say? Simple is as simple does, sir. You know, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like one of those simple. Right. Health is simple. And now this is the next level. It goes, okay, well, that's not that specific. No, it is that specific. Tell me about masa and why this is important for bioavailability, digestion. People want to have corn, especially people with weakened gut. I mean, if I've got poor digestion, weakened gut lining, how we process the corn can greatly impact the absorbability of it.
Yeah, this is true as it is for all seeds and grains. So people are probably familiar with this concept of anti-nutrients, phytic acid, and other things. The defense mechanisms that seeds as a category of matter have against predators. And similarly, people know about how you can make seeds more digestible. So if you're making bread, which comes from wheat, which is a seed of a certain grass, you would sourdough ferment it, and the activity of the bacteria and the yeast have an effect on not only the anti-nutrients of the phytic acid, but in the case of bread, I've seen several studies where the literal gluten content goes down as the sourdough fermentation occurs. And in some case, and there's many people who have celiac or celiac-like conditions that are able to eat certain bread that's well prepared. Plenty of people also, they go to Europe and they can eat the bread. Another reason is that because wheat is grown with a lot of pesticides, and then the flour has additives put in, like folic acid, which is a toxic thing. It's a synthetic form of folate, which is an actual nutrient that your body needs, but folic acid is synthetic and it's toxic to many people. So there's a lot of reasons why grains could be bad, but you can solve for them. And so the first step, of course, is grow the plant well. Don't use pesticides. Don't enrich it with fake nutrients, iron, folic acid, and whatever. Grow the plant well and don't enrich it. So that's the organic part. And then the key thing in preparing corn, just like how we would ferment wheat to make sourdough bread, there's this process called nixtamalization, which was invented in Mesoamerica several thousand years ago. Corn was the staple carbohydrate in those cultures, the Aztecs and similar. And so they discovered a way to prepare it that increased the nutrient bioavailability and got rid of anti-nutrients overall and made it more digestible. The actual mechanics of this process are pretty simple. You boil corn for about an hour with calcium
Mm-hmm.
hydroxide, which sounds scary, but it's just limestone, crushed up limestone. It's the
Mm-hmm.
point of this is it's an alkaline, a basic solution, and that alkaline solution boiled for an hour, then you let it sit for 8 hours. It breaks down the hard outer shell that is irritating. It's like if you were eating corn on the cob and you would excrete out the corn shells, those little things that you'll see the next day.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain enzymatic activity that kills micro or disables mycotoxins, changes proteins to make them more bioavailable, as well as the nutrients in corn. And so there's this disease called pellagra, which I believe is a vitamin B1 or vitamin B3 deficiency, severe vitamin B, whatever it is, deficiency. I forget the one. And this afflicted a lot of American settlers in the South, where corn was a popular foodstuff in the 1800s because they didn't nixtamalize it. So they had their grits and their cornbread, and they'd bake all these corn products, but they wouldn't nixtamalize it like the native South Mesoamericans did. And because of that, corn has this property where, naturally or without preparation properly, it can cause the theft almost of vitamin B1 and cause this vitamin B1 deficiency in pellagra. So nixtamalizing corn is very important to make it digestible. But once you do that, it is among the more, I guess you could say, acceptable or soothing or more tolerable starches for many people, especially who are sensitive. So a lot of people have problems with gluten. Even if it's organic and sourdough bread, maybe you can't eat it. For potatoes, there are similarly, especially in the potato skins, which we do make potato chips, but we also remove the skins. There are certain, I think they're called sulforaphanes, I believe that's the one. Or no, it's glycoalkaloids. Sorry. I believe glycoalkaloids, which can be toxic. So, rice, brown rice, if I were to eat brown rice, I would excrete out the shells of the brown rice, similar to what people do when they eat corn. And those are kind of the carbohydrates. Potatoes, rice, wheat, and corn are basically the carbohydrates of civilization around the world. So you got to pick one if you're going to eat a carbohydrate at all. And properly prepared nixtamalized corn for many people is among the most tolerable varieties of carb to eat.
And a nickname for that is masa.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
That nickname is masa. So that's why it's called masa. Guys, I want to break down in layman's terms what he just said. There are plant defenses that make it harder for us to eat certain plants, those dense polysaccharide carbohydrates. So the famous diets of carnivore, paleo, SCD, they're really saying stay away from polysaccharides, dense grains, because our gut can't handle them. One of the biggest reasons we can't handle them, they're sprayed. Like wheat is sprayed at the end, right before it's cropped with glyphosate, and it destroys our microbiome. So these chemicals get sprayed, these crops get sprayed, so you need a quality product, and then you have to reduce the plant defenses. So when he's saying he's going to reduce the gliadin in the wheat through proper fermentation with an organic wheat like you get from Italy, not the United States, then your body can handle it. Even some people who are celiac can handle it. So think of masa as the fermented sourdough of corn.
Exactly. That is exactly the right metaphor.
It's like, that's it. And the thing with nuts, I don't eat nuts that are not properly sprouted, and I don't eat nut butters that are not stone grounded to protect the oil. So when you have plants, you want to make them properly prepared to reduce the plant defenses. Dr. Gundry has made his whole career on teaching people about plant defenses like lectins or phytic acid from brown rice you mentioned, or oxalates from certain things like kale or spinach. So this is, if you're looking for any kind of grain, Steven so beautifully and eloquently taught us here about reducing plant defenses and getting a quality prepared plant. And when you're looking at corn, you want masa or nixtamalized, which that always gets my tongue twisted.
Yeah, it's a milky word. Yeah,
but limestone. Boil it for an hour, limestone to help break down that outer shell, and it's going to be way more bioavailable, and it's not going to rob you of your B vitamins.
Yeah,
and it's going to, you said it's going to kill the mold mycotoxins. It'll help with mycotoxins.
Yeah, all grains, because they're stored in in the dark for maybe several months or whatever. Mold can grow, and so processing in this way disables mycotoxins. And I think your metaphor or the analogy of sourdough to bread is as nixtamalization is to corn is very correct. Not only because of the effect, but also because of the common corners that are cut in the process. So you can make bread with just commercial yeast. Right, the loaf of rise will look similar, but it doesn't have the same biological process. The same biological processes have not taken place in the flour itself. You don't have the activity of the bacteria. You don't have the activity of the yeast, so on. Similarly, there
Mm-hmm.
are shortcuts to nixtamalizing corn to make common chips that you might find or similar tortilla products. I've seen with my own eyes that I've been to a ton of factories at this point. We make all our own products ourselves, but whatever. Investors try to buy factory
Hey,
equipment.
no, that's big. That's big. Make it all yourself. Guys, we got to support family-owned and high-integral companies. This is what it's about. Steve's one of those guys. Like,
Yeah.
I'm constantly looking for who's the family-owned business where it's morals over money and they're making something great.
Well,
That's why we're here today.
in the chip category. I'll say we're one of the last ones standing, which is kind of crazy. Siete
Well,
is owned by PepsiCo.
sold out.
I forget who owns them.
Yep.
Boulder Canyon is owned by Utz, but yeah, we're one of the only ones left. Or well, we're relatively new,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
we intend to keep it that way.
Well,
But yeah, so I've been to plenty of factories, and one in
yep.
particular to make the corn chip or to make the tortillas. They were selling fresh tortillas to restaurants, and they took corn flour, right? So it's corn ground up, no nixtamalization. It's just like it's powder, just like any other flour. And then they heated up a little bit of calcium hydroxide in basically a teapot, and then poured that into the flour, and then mixed that into a dough, and then directly made tortillas out of it, which is a complete shortcut, right? It
Yeah.
allowed for a product that looks like a tortilla, but in the same way as yeast creates a product that looks like bread, but it's not bread. It didn't follow the steps. It didn't soak it.
Yeah.
It didn't boil it and soak it for 8 hours in calcium hydroxide, and then rinse that away, and then rinse the shells off, and then grind it with a stone mill. It already was a powder. They just added calcium hydroxide right to the dough, and then you're just going to eat it. Like, it's absolutely insane. And that's a common corner that can be cut in nixtamalization. So even though you can see a product that calls itself a tortilla or a tortilla chip, it very well may be made in this way. Not all of them, certainly. There are plenty of people that do nixtamalization the proper way, which is great,
Mm-hmm.
but not all of them. And that's just that's just one component. Of course, the organic and non-GMO thing is also.
And they can drive down the cost and still try to use those keywords to make the sale.
Yeah, of
This
course.
is again, everyone listening who really cares to get the best product out there. This is why it's so important to have one-on-ones with company owners and really look for family-owned companies that really have a drive, because he can see all the little hidden things going on in the market that we can't see as the consumer. It's the same thing with the probiotic companies we use. It's the same thing with certain companies who make like phosphatidylcholine. I just see it, fish oil. I see it over and over and over again that they're mass producing and they're using shortcuts and they're trying to use certain keywords because they have. The number one thing is driving a net profit, not to create something great. And it's so easy to get caught up in that in capitalism. It's just, and
I would like,
I
will say, I totally agree, but I would like to defend for a minute the people who make these decisions, not because I agree with them, but because it's not necessarily like we have this whole like they need to maximize their profit thing, but we have to understand what profit is. Profit is sales price minus expense, right? Cost. And so there's two ways to do that. There's two ways to grow a profit. You can charge more, or you can reduce your costs.
Yeah.
And so the reason companies price the way they do is because that's what they think the consumer wants, or the consumer demands it, or at least they feel that that's what the consumer demands, or that's what their consumers actually do demand. And we get this all the time. Everyone always complains about how expensive our stuff is. But so if I were less inclined to be a perfectionist about the way we do things, I might say, well, crap, I don't want to sell a bag of tortilla chips that some people might not want to pay for. What can I do to get my cost down so I can bring my price down and still and still maintain a profit? Most of the companies that I've seen, especially small businesses that make a lower quality product, they're not rich. Like, they're not doing this to make a ton of money. FritoLay is maybe a different story, but even still, they have price, they have the money they take in that people pay them for, and they have their costs. And if people won't pay a higher price for better food, their only chance at survival is to lower their costs. And so in a way, it's not like taxes, right? If you don't pay your taxes, you go to jail. You're forced to pay your taxes, for better or for worse, is what it is. No one's forcing you to buy a product at a particular price. You choose to buy a product at a particular price. FritoLay could go bankrupt tomorrow if people just stopped buying Fritos and Doritos and Cheetos and Lays and whatever. But they don't. They want to buy food that's so cheap. And in so doing, they feed the monster that makes them their bad quality food. So I totally agree that most of the market and most businesses are doing these cost-cutting measures. But I wouldn't say it's because they're greedy and they have 100%. To, and they're trying to take advantage of us. The market almost pressures them to, because everyone's always complaining about food and prices, and they want it to be cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. Well, guess what? over the past several decades of Americans demanding cheaper and cheaper food, we've gotten cheaper and cheaper food, but now we don't want it, you know? So you can't have your cake and eat it too in that particular case.
Great point. I think also echoing what Steven's saying, profit is not evil. Money is not evil when used in the right ways. That we need to have healthy profit margins, and we need to support companies to have the cash flow to build great things. And so, you know, I think with this guy, I just want to say something about price. If you look at what it costs to try to heal leaky gut from taking in Lay's and Doritos and all that stuff that injures your gut lining, you could be spending $500 a month on BPC 157. You could be spending $120 a month on, you know, things like zinc carnosine and slippery elm and aloe vera. And we spend all this money to heal from the very thing that's damaging. So if the Lay's chips cost $4.99 and this costs $13.99, you're paying $7 more to inherently damage your body less.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to leave everyone with this thought. My naturopath professor said, way back when, he said, most people sacrifice their health to get rich, and then they sacrifice their riches to get healthy.
Yep. Oh, that's great. That's a great quote.
And so for me, I'm going, it's $6, it's $5 or $6, and you should, you know, watch your snacking. I think also we're like snackaholics is half the problem too. So,
I mean, that's
interesting.
It's funny. I don't snack. I'm not a snacker. I eat 3 meals a day or 2.
Yep.
Depending on the day.
Yep.
But I eat most of them, and I eat a lot of Masa Chips, but they're part of my meal.
Yeah. Smart.
Or Vandy, we make a potato chip called Vandy Crisps as well. And so, for example, when my wife's cooking steak, she can make the steak, which is very easy to do in a pan, and then make potatoes is difficult. Making rice is difficult. Finding good pasta or bread it's all very difficult. But if we can get a bag of potato chips from my company and just stick them in the oven and warm them up for 2 seconds, that's literally a steak and French fry dinner that took no effort to make, you know? So I eat most of, and that's kind of the thing. Most people are accustomed to a snack food as a snack, as in an in-between meal thing.
Yep.
I view it personally in the way I actually consume them. It's simply part of the meal. It's an ingredient in a dinner. It's a meal accompaniment, because most of my meals, I want them to be balanced. I want them to have carbs, and I want them to have some vegetables, and I want them to have some meat, a lot of meat, of course. And I need a carbohydrate from somewhere. And so this, in my view, it is part of it. And it's like, I wanted to create a food, like it's a snack food, but it's really a meal food, if that makes sense, you know?
Yeah, for me, and I love what you're saying. For me personally, I love to focus on like fruits a lot. Sometimes I'll use like a congee that's of rinse and reduce arsenic and things like that. But, you know, with this, I love with guac, or even in the meal, as you say, I also try to reduce snacking. If you follow these principles, it gets easier and easier. And, you know, real food does, I mean, other question I want everyone to ponder is, what was the cost for food for our great-grandfather? Because it wasn't just money. It wasn't just money. Steven liked that one. It wasn't just money. It was survivability. It was energy. It was time. Time and energy are worth more than money, especially the more and more you go through life and you work hard and save a few bucks. You know, our great-grandfather had to go out there and produce the food. He had to go out in the rain or in the morning and make the food grow and make sure he had enough water and spend money to even grow the food.
Yeah.
So
that's a great
what
point.
percentage of time, energy, and money did our great-grandparents spend on their food and every generation before them? And I bet you it was 3 to 4 times higher. They spent time, energy, money on food than we do. And we wonder why we're sick from the food.
So yeah, in modern America, we spend about 11% on average, right, of our household income on food. In the 1950s, it was 30%. So even 70 years ago, people spent 3 times more relative to their income on food.
Steve, that was huge.
I didn't
even know that stat.
Right.
Like
70 years before that, like you said, it wasn't 11% of your money on food. It wasn't 30%. It was 100% of your working hours on food, right? You were a farmer. 97% of people throughout human history were farmers. And so if you wanted to eat, you had to grow it, and you spent the hard and long hours of a farmer in order to feed yourself and your family. And
you might get a flood.
What?
And you might get bad temperature and a bad flood, and it ruins your entire crop, and you're starving through the winter.
Right. Yeah,
like
it's not an easy life. So we take so much for granted. We just can go to the store and get food. But at a certain point, people want cheaper and cheaper food. what do you want to spend? $0 on food? I learned this one recently.
Or the government. We want the government to pay for it all. Just subsidize it, right?
But who's paying the government? That's also us.
Yep.
I heard this one from Joel.
Or they're paying themselves with printing. Side note, side hack. I'm gonna leave that one alone.
Say
go ahead,
it's
Paul.
Yeah, it's all coming from us, whether it's through inflation or taxation or both. But
yep.
I heard this one from Joel Salatin recently. I was at this thing called the Rogue Food Conference, and it's homesteading, regenerative farming kind of topics. Joel Salatin was there, and he talked about how the American farmer today makes 8 cents on the dollar for every dollar of food that you buy at the store. So if you go to Whole Foods or whatever store and you buy produce or meat or whatever it is, on average across things that are grown, the farmer themselves gets 8 cents. And at some point, I think he said in the 60s or something, the farmer made, I believe, 20 or maybe 30 cents. It might have been even 50 cents, actually, a much higher percentage of the total price of food. But the crazy thing to really hit this home that he mentioned, which I think is very compelling, if you had an 8% off coupon to buy food, would food all of a sudden become cheap? Would you feel the food was cheap enough? Most people would not even think it's worth to clip an 8% off coupon.
Yep.
But that's what you would do if farmers made literally zero money and worked for free. It would just be an 8% off coupon at the grocery store. That's it.
Where's all the money going?
So everyone who's not the farmer is getting money, but the farmer is not getting money. So it's like, how much more cheap can we expect food to be? One of the things that we could do to make food cheaper is reduce the regulations and the burden of those regulations, the financial burden of those regulations in the food system itself, right? If this were 50 years ago and you were buying milk from your farmer down the street, the farmer kept most of the dollar you spent. But now, the standard at any grocery store across the board, you should think of going to the grocery store. Let's say it's Whole Foods. You give Whole Foods $10 for stuff that you buy there. Whole Foods, which is owned by Amazon, takes 45 cents of everything. 45 cents. And that's when it's at full price. If you buy on the deal, they take even more.
45 cents on the dollar. So the Whole Foods to resell it is taking 5-6 times more, almost 6 times more than the farmer who actually grew it.
Whole Foods get 45 cents. Then the distributor that got the food to Whole Foods takes maybe 15 to 20 cents, depending on the category.
Okay.
And then that money is the revenue to the farmer, which is what he has to run his entire business off of. That money pays for his rent for the land or the taxes on his land if he owns it. It pays for the labor that he has to hire. It pays for his machinery. It pays for his debt. It pays for his seeds. It pays for his fertilizers or whatever other inputs he may buy. And also the money left over to pay for his family. That is, it's shockingly small how little money is actually going to the people that produce the food.
It's crazy. Steven, I wanted to talk a little bit about this with price point, because I think me and you are on the same page. I want to drive something home. When I was chronically sick, I nearly died of inflammatory bowel disease. I was housebound for a year. I was in a wheelchair for, 2 or 3 weeks, bedridden for 3 months. It was a whole experience. I don't come from a wealthy family. I was in debt after my undergrad. I really worked hard in my life. Everything I had, this business bootstrapped. When I was chronically sick, I needed to get really high quality food, and I only cooked what I prepared. Okay. And the way I afforded it with no income is, number one, I kept my expenses low. Like, if you're over here and you're saying you can't afford a better chip for your health, dealing with IBD, IBS, or any kind of health issue, I want to know, do you have the brand new iPhone? Do you have brand new Jordans? Because I have an iPhone 15. I see no reason to upgrade to these new phones and go into more debt. Are you driving a car that you own 10% on and that you owe the bank and you're paying all these major interest rates? I mean, there's a lot of ways we've got to take our power back with our voting dollars. I don't call it just dollars. I mean our voting dollars. And so one of the things I did when I had no income is I got rid of alcohol. I got rid of a lot of snacking. I got rid of a lot of expenses I didn't need. And I was able to use that cash flow to substitute for the highest quality food that actually made a difference. Now, you need a steak, you need protein, you need carbohydrates. You don't absolutely need a Masa chip.
Absolutely true.
But you can start looking at this. And I found that in my life, when I don't just try to increase my expenses, but substitute my expenses. What subscriptions, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? And how can I focus in the cash I do have on the things that actually move the needle? And then how I vote with, who I want to incentivize, because I want companies like Masa to be here in the future. So I just want to put that out there that, there's a lot of ways we can really focus our dollars, get healthier, get happier. For me, a lot of the happiness in life is actually just the sun, the earth, the beach, the mountains, and it's not as much in a store. I've found over time, and it's
Well
my
said.
family, right?
Yeah, if you first, by no means are Masa Chips a necessary part of the human diet. Most foods
Yes,
are not.
and that's important to say. Yeah,
It's very important. That being, and I'd much rather hear people if someone, and maybe I'm not, if this is the audience or someone else, I'd much rather hear someone who's eating a standard American diet spends the finite budget they have for food on grass-fed beef and
yep,
high-quality dairy products and similar. Like that you need to
yeah,
survive.
agreed.
However, consider if the average American spends 11% of their budget on food, and if you are the average American, you could you could increase your food budget by 50%. So if you buy stuff, if you spend $100 on food a week, now you spend $150 on food a week. Imagine how much higher quality food you could buy
Yeah,
for another 50% increase in your food budget. But then because the total budget is so small of food, consider that what that does to your overall budget. Your overall budget only went up by, of food went up by 5%, right?
mm-hmm.
So if you spent 11% before, well, 5.5%, whatever. You spent 11% before, now you spend 16.5%, right? Can you find 5% of your budget from elsewhere, whether it's a Netflix subscription or a phone or a car or any of the more superfluous things that you've mentioned? Can you find 5% of your budget to substitute into food, which I think is very important. The fact that we spend so little money on food is kind of shocking to me. And again, I'm not saying you should buy my food, buy raw milk and grass-fed beef, but the fact that we expect to be well nourished for such a vanishingly small amount of money is kind of insane.
Yeah,
I mean, I frequently drive past people, houses that are, normal looking neighborhoods. I drive past driveways where people have hundreds of thousands of dollars of cars in their driveway,
yeah,
right? And this is
mm-hmm.
this may be a person who would complain that food is too expensive. It's not about the money; it's about the priorities. There are
Yeah,
already people whom that's not the case. I totally understand that.
yeah. Well, we're
But
conditioned that way.
the
We as
majority
a
of
society.
Americans,
Yeah,
yeah, that's not how they
we're
approach things. They just would rather have a BMW 3 Series or a $70,000
yeah,
truck
totally.
or whatever than eat proper food to feed their family.
I think there's a lot saying here that I just want everyone to take away one or two things that maybe you could switch. And, with Masa, I just go, okay, this is $14 a bag. One, how much am I gouging snack food versus, eating a moderate amount of it so if it can last longer? Two is I know I'm less likely to get leaky gut reactions, undigested food reactions, getting into the colon. With IBD, I think it's just a must look at. And number three is I want someone like these companies, for me, like Natron or Masa or some of these companies I work with, I want them to be here. And cash is like oxygen in business. If anyone doesn't have business experience, it's oxygen. You can't do anything. You can't produce. If he was to sell a bag, he has to pay to make a bag. He has to store the bag, and he has to reduce the risk that he gets a bad lot. And he has to he has to take on the risk he gets a bad lot. He has to take on the risk that he doesn't sell enough and it all goes bad and he just has to throw it out. So if a company sells $1 million of any product, they then have to go back and buy maybe $500,000-$600,000 of more product, and they can't even take profit because if the company is growing, they got to put every dollar back in to get the amount of the biggest lot they can get. And the bigger they get, the harder it is to create the quality chip. I always say, like, when you go to Whole Foods, there's a huge decrease in quality with most companies because they need to make 1 million of them a week. Good farms with wild crafted food that's properly fermented cannot make 1 million a week. So it's really hard to scale health. Remember that. And so, yes, Steve might say, yeah, I could give away 20% of my margin and make this cheaper if I could move 1 million of them a week. So yeah, he could make sense of it if he went to scale, Costco style. So I want everyone to understand that understanding how business works really helps with the authenticity of where you're putting dollars and who you invest in. And I see that on all sides of the scale with health, because health is kind of like oil and water. It's very dangerous. It's very slippery. This is the most important thing to all of us, despite creed, gender, race, political belief. It doesn't matter. We all deserve to be healthy. And we need to find integral, authentic people and community and forms of business that actually do this right. And it is a very sensitive topic. So I wanted to have a more real conversation with you guys today to say, look, take a second to understand how business works, find the people you trust, and get trust and integrity with wherever you put your voting dollars. Steve, what are your thoughts?
The other, 2 points. The business working thing is, I think, very important, because if people understood more about what's actually happening, I think they would get it, right? So, as an example, I spend $500,000 a month on tallow, just on tallow, right?
That's
One
cr-
ingredient.
I mean, the
on label.
overhead is just huge.
Yeah, I have rent. We have, I think we have two facilities. Granted, it's all relative to how much we sell, which is good, and we're growing, so that's great.
Yeah. Yep.
But our rent is like, I have $130,000 a month in rent that we have to pay every
Yep.
month, right? Like, it's kind of crazy. Like, I also do not come from a super wealthy background. Like, the fact that
Yeah. Thank you for your courage.
$130,000 a month
Everyone
bill,
listening, thank Steven for his courage,
like,
please.
it's
How many of
like,
you guys be willing to
can you
spend
imagine
that?
that? Like a
Yeah.
6-figure rent bill per month is insane. Anyway, so there's a lot of cost to bear, but there's two real things here. So one is that I could use the same ingredients that FritoLay uses. I can buy the same crappy corn, the same crappy seed oils, same crappy plastic pouch, and fry them in more or less a similar way. And my product would still cost 2 to 3 times as much to make as it does Frito-Lay. For the simple reason that when you buy more of a thing, the price goes down, even at the same quality. So like corn on the commodity markets, if you're buying train loads of corn at a time, if you're Frito-Lay, corn costs, like commodity pesticide corn costs maybe 15 cents, 15 cents a pound, maybe 11 cents or something like that. But if you're a consumer and you go to the store, how much does corn cost? Commodity corn or whatever, you're just going to buy it. It's 50 cents, 60 cents, 70 cents a pound. And so because you buy more, it becomes cheaper. And the only way to buy more is to use more. And the only way to use more is to sell more. And so there's this thing in business. There's plenty of brands that always start trying to sell healthy food, whether it's something like Primal Kitchen with the mayonnaise or Hue Chocolate, whatever. There's a lot of examples. When they're small, their costs are higher, and their costs go down as they grow, even without them degrading quality, simply because they're bigger. And so if we were to, charge a small amount of money, let's just say, or charge less, well, what would that mean? We would never be as cheap as Frito-Lay, ever, and we wouldn't be able to grow. And so we would be stuck in this middle ground of being like not that great and not that cheap forever. Whereas what we're able to do, because we can grow, is we can sign contracts with our potato farmer, with our corn farmer. Next year, my corn can be 10% cheaper. The following year can be 20% cheaper, and on and on. And that is the type of savings that ends up getting passed on to the consumer. I mean, even us, our sticker price on our website is $13 a bag. When we first started, that's about what we received. But now we end up selling for about $10 a bag through the various discounts we offer and subscriptions and other things. We make about $10 a bag.
Yeah.
And so that's a relatively big difference in 2 years, right? And we're still freaking tiny,
Yeah.
So businesses can only be economical if they're big. And I actually don't agree. I don't think there's an inherent problem with big business. It's just the incentives of certain businesses are what they are. Like there are plenty of high quality, large businesses that make high quality products. Maybe not so much in food, but certainly luxury products, as an example. Like Hermes, the luxury brand, they make like fancy leather handbags that are super, super expensive. The products are high quality. Maybe I'm not, saying I'm a customer. I'm not necessarily into that kind of thing. That's not the point. The point is they're able to make a high volume of high quality things at the scale that they operate at. It's just that most businesses choose to sell crappy stuff, and they sold crappy stuff when they were small, and they'll sell crappy stuff when they're big. It's just the bigness didn't make it worse. It just does give you more of an incentive, because if you can cut a cost and multiply it by 1 billion bags a year, you save a lot more money than if I were to cut a cost and multiply it by a few 100,000 bags a month.
And something I think also people understand about business is if he makes it super tight and something happens with his distributor of beef tallow or his corn, he could go out of business in 30 days.
Very easily.
Very easily. You don't there's no background, like 10 years just gone, or have to go into bankruptcy and take a bunch of loans out. The cash flow is crazy. So this is just such an important conversation. I don't think people understand enough about business.
Yeah.
And I say it because I'm a person building a company also where I want the morals over money, but I understand cash is oxygen. I want to be transparent. I want to be authentic for people out there who put their faith in me, and I want to be connected with people who do the same thing. And so, two questions, Stephen. Number one, tariffs. Does that affect your business, or do you get everything in America? Second question
We
is, hold
yeah.
on, let me get you that second question too. Second question is, if you got a call from Whole Foods and two other huge developers tomorrow, and they said, "We love it. We want to do a million bags, a million bags a month," and all of a sudden you had to increase to 3, 4, 5 million, could you keep the quality of the chip going and scale? Two questions.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Great questions. On the tariff side, all our ingredients are sourced domestically, so that doesn't affect us. However, we have some machinery that is produced. Well, we have two types of machinery: we have potato chip frying equipment, and there's tortilla chip frying equipment. The tortilla chip stuff is produced in the U.S. It's made in a factory in Tennessee by the oldest tortilla chip frying industrial company in the world, actually. And
Beautiful.
the potato chip stuff comes from this company in the Netherlands. The thing is, we can get stuff from Tennessee. That's great. I'm happy we do. I like working with them. But they have to buy stainless steel from somewhere. And they get stainless steel from I think Ukraine, I want to say. I don't know. Point is, there's some downstream things in our equipment, but that's not really like a cost of an ingredient. Same thing with shipping equipment from the Netherlands. But it's like a one-time thing. It's like expensive equipment is now slightly more expensive. Whoop-de-doo. The main cost that we have to bear is not in the equipment itself. So it's not a very big deal, and we haven't really had to change any sort of pricing or policy or anything else or any other decision making.
But it could happen. A downstream increase in cost then hits you through the trickle effect. Could happen.
But we have very simple food, and because organic farming is great, actually, due to the tariffs and due to the pesticide and fertilizer shortages in the war in Ukraine, a lot of conventional crops actually got more expensive because a lot of fertilizer comes from Ukraine specifically for some reason. And then with tariffs and other things, but an organic corn farmer in the U.S., it's actually kind of cool. Their entire business is U.S. sourced. The seeds are from the previous year, which they grew. The land is here. The dirt is free, or whatever. The dirt's in the land. The water comes from the sky, So I'm actually very bullish on how well protected domestic agriculture is from tariffs and other things, provided it's organic, because they don't source non-local inputs. I think tariffs are a way of penalizing non-local sourcing of things, which is in general a good thing. Like, if we can source stuff locally, we absolutely should. But not everything can be made locally. For example, you can't grow olive oil. You can't make olive oil in New Jersey, which is where I live.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have to buy it from somewhere. You don't grow mangoes in Montana. So where are you gonna get them? So whatever. We don't need to debate politics, but short answer is no. We don't really have any tariff issues. The second question, if I recall, is if Whole Foods asked us to make more, could we do so at the same quality? The answer is yes, actually.
Wonderful.
It's pretty, right? Like, America's freaking huge, right? There's, I don't know, tens, hundreds of millions of hectares of farmland in this country. It's actually kind of insane. The depth of the market for certain crops is just so unbelievably massive. It's hard for people to comprehend. The punchline, of course, is that organic farming is a choice. The land is already there, right? And insofar as organic farming is not a huge percent of the farming market, it's simply because there's no customer. And that's kind of a problem, right? There are, I don't know, farmers that farm probably millions of acres that would convert to organic farming if they thought they could make good money and sell their product doing so. But they don't, because they can't make money, because there's no one willing to buy this. It goes back to what we were saying before. If the people don't want to buy better quality food, people are not going to make it. How can you expect them to make it? Right? They're not going to do it for free. It's not even about their greed or anything. They physically can't. They will run out of money. So we have, I'll give you an example for the potato farming. There's a potato guy in Idaho. He's the oldest farmer of organic potatoes in Idaho. And he has a very niche business farming a small quantity of a large variety of different niche seed potatoes. And he sells to small gardeners and other small farmers who want a specific variety of potato to grow in their farm. We found him. He was willing to take on the growing of the potatoes for our potato chips. And we tripled his business basically overnight by showing up and placing our first order of potatoes for the first year of our product. And so there are now 300 acres of land in Idaho that are growing organic potatoes for us. that would not have been growing organic potatoes if it were not for us buying them.
That's wonderful to
And
hear.
that's
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
Next year, it's going to be 800 acres. I don't even know.
This is really exciting to hear. I'm so happy to hear this because
I think for the farming, for the corn farming system,
I can walk through a Whole Foods and I can tell you that the value of that product has gone down over local farm. There's very few things in this world that you can do at a high quality and you can scale. But what he's saying is he can get organic, properly grown potatoes or corn, and you're getting the corn in the United States as well?
Yeah.
Okay. He can get it in the United States, and there's enough land that those people could handle him going and saying, let's 5X our orders because we're getting bigger. That's not true a lot of times with meat. It's hard to do with meat because of the quality the meat has to be and how it's grown properly and it's grass-fed and how long it takes. It's getting better and better. But if you look at Whole Foods meat quality, it's not nearly as good as a local butcher. If you look at kefir, if you look at different forms of dairy, if you look at sauerkraut, it's not nearly as good as like wild crafted local stuff or A2 local stuff. So this is a rare occasion.
I actually know that it's that rare. I think it's rare in practice. I agree, but it's not inherently rare. The issue comes down to money, right? So going on with this potato farmer, we had our harvest recently. In the middle of September, he started, and we got a call from him, and he takes pride in his work, and he was beaming. He's like, "This is the best crop of potatoes I've ever grown in my life," and it's one of the biggest that at least he's grown in a long time. Why is that? Because we pay him whatever he needs to do the job right, and we're not concerned with having cheap potatoes from him. So because of that, he knows we're a good customer for him. We'll pay the money, so he'll spend the time, and he'll hire the laborers, and he'll get the trucks or the tractors or whatever he needs to do to make sure that they're properly cared for and weeded and watered and whatever, right? He doesn't have to spare any expense, and his potatoes are better than they've ever been. While at the same time, as you've rightly pointed out, everyone else's stuff is getting worse. And the reason for this is because companies are not charging enough money to make it good. And they're doing so because consumers are not going to pay prices, or at least they don't think consumers will pay prices for them to do it well. And so their only option is to go back to what we said before, is to cut costs, right? If you say, same thing with our spices is another good example. I pay $40 a pound for lime powder, which is insane because if you spend 2 seconds Googling lime powder, you'll find it for like $2 a pound or less, especially at an industrial scale. The reason for this is because most lime powder that you would find is lime juice sprayed over maltodextrin and then dehydrated, which is a very cheap thing to go do. It's not organic. They have this carrier, whatever. Instead, we have a guy. And the spices actually we don't source domestically because America doesn't make a lot of spices. But we have a guy in South Africa who gets naturally grown. They don't have an organic certification, unfortunately, but we tested it for pesticides, so it's good. Basically, organically grown limes. He like grinds them up into like a fine slurry, and then dries the entire lime, the whole thing with the fiber and the pith and the rind and the juice, and that dried product is then ground up into a powder, and that's what we use for our chips. And then after getting it done over there, shipping it over here, he has a special machine that helps smash it into finer particles. It's all very cool. That's $40 a pound. It's by far the most expensive spice we use on a per pound basis, and we buy some very expensive spices. And guess what? Cool. I'll pay it. Happy to. Here, take my money. Make me the best lime powder because I have a product that's expensive. And so what I'm going to do with that money is get the best ingredients, and those cost money.
I love the mission,
that's
man.
how it feeds into itself.
I love
it. And the farming, right? Like maybe
you're just going for
it,
dude. You're just going for it. You're saying I'm going to keep making the best product there is. Steven, this is to me. I'm so happy you're doing this. I've been looking for this for a while. I go into stores and I look at where they at. I'm like, making a great snack is really, really hard. And I just didn't see anyone quite doing it like this. If someone wants to get masa and they don't have it at their local store, what's the best way they can get it? You mentioned sometimes you guys have discounts and sales. Where can they see those? Should they be on your email list?
Do you have a discount code?
What was that?
Do you have a discount code?
I don't, but I'm going to, as of guys, by the time this comes out, there will be a discount code right below. So we'll make sure to hook you up. And obviously, I want nothing. If I'm whatever commission Steven can handle goes straight to you. I want no profits. I want you to enjoy this chip.
I don't know of a discount code that whatever, we can make a discount code for you that's just a straight discount. Whatever, you'll have a code.
You'll have a code. We'll make sure you guys get hooked up for anyone who
We'll
wants
have
to
a
try
code, and
Yeah.
that will you can go to Masa Chips, MasaChips.com.
Yeah.
And we'll get you a code also for Vandy with potato chips, which is VANDYCRISPS, VandyCrisps.com. Also, if you live near Sprouts and you're shopping at Sprouts, we are now in Sprouts as of October 1st.
Wow.
So I
Great
would
job.
please buy a few bags there.
Are you in Whole Foods? I think you alluded to that you are. Are you in?
Eventually.
Eventually. Okay, so
Probably.
Sprouts, Mother's Market, Fermentation Farm.
Oh, we have a lot of small stores.
Yeah.
Like if you go on our store website, we have I think excluding Sprouts, we have about 1,500 places that carry us.
Okay.
Small health food stores, cafes, etc.
Beautiful.
Sprouts brings the total to about 2,000, I think. But we will be in Whole Foods maybe mid-year next year. But yeah, if you find us at Sprouts, buy us there. We may be out of stock. We're selling pretty well there, so but try and get it if you can.
Okay. I love it. So guys, Masa Chips, check it out. I'm a fan of what they're doing, and I hope you learned a lot today about how we can just make the world a little bit of a healthier place. Steven, thanks so much for coming on. Happy healing. Thanks for what you do.
Thanks for having me, Dane.